Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Transforming Marriages with Uji League. I'm thrilled to be your host today as we talk about what is very important for every husband to know, as we talk about what I believe will transform many marriages today, as we talk about what I believe is highly beneficial to all husbands all over the world. So, join me today as we talk about this important subject. So, as a husband, have you found yourself thinking, why should I love my wife when she always disrespects me? Why should I care for her when she doesn't support my cause? Have you found yourself asking, why should I love my wife when she doesn't have respect for my family, when she doesn't have respect for my mother, when she doesn't have respect for my father, when she doesn't have respect for my siblings? Have you found yourself asking, why should I love my wife when she's always criticizing me? Why should I love my wife when she doesn't listen to my advice? All these things are valid feelings. All these things are valid concerns. All these things are valid questions that men, that husbands all over the world contend with. And I'm not going to be here to make light of those concerns. I'm not going to be here to undermine those concerns. Those concerns are very genuine and real. However, there is a missing point here. And what is that missing point? This is the point I want husbands to pay attention to and to really understand. The missing point here is, does loving your wife, is it based on those conditions? Does it mean that if your wife doesn't pass those conditions, that you are not going to love her? Does loving your wife, is it based on conditions? I'm here to tell you this, that loving your wife shouldn't be based on any condition. Loving your wife is a mandate that God has given to you. So it's not about your wife or about what people will say or about what will make you feel good or not. But loving your wife is a mandate that God has given to you. And for mostly for Christians watching this video today, you have to know that loving your wife is not something that is being demanded by your wife. It's a mandate that God has given to you. So it's not all about your wife. It's about God. It's about honoring God. It's about obeying His commandments. And when you as a husband, you don't love your wife, you have disobeyed God. And this is something we need to pay attention to. And when I tell husband, I usually say this to them: you still have to love her regardless. The reason is because God will not vindicate you for not loving your wife. Because, for example, she's a bad woman. God will not say, my son, you have been vindicated, because it is quite obvious that your wife is very disrespectful. God cannot do that. And this is what I want almost every husband anywhere in the world to understand. Play your own part first by obeying God, by honoring God. And this is why the book of Ephesians is something I wouldn't want men to play with. I wouldn't want husbands to play with. God was very explicit when He said in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 25, husbands, love your wives the way Christ loved the church. And because Christ loved the church, He was able to die for the church. And if you look at the next verse was also very instructive. And why did Christ die for the church? The sinful church, the sinners like you and I. He did that He might present her as a glorious church that should be in verse 27. But before this verse 27, what are you supposed to do to be able to present her as a glorious church without spot or wrinkle? You have to do something very critical. You have to cleanse her and sanctify her by the washing of the water by the word. Which is why verse 26 says that he might sanctify her and cleanse her with the washing of the water by the word. And this goes to show that as a husband, God has given you a mandate to do what? God has given you a mandate to feast your wife. And how do you feast your wife? You feast her by loving her. And like the word of God says, that you might cleanse and you might sanctify and cleanse her. My big question is, do you cleanse what is squeaky clean? You don't. You only clean what is full of filth, what is full of dirt. And this is what the Bible expects us to do. And this is what God expects us to do. God expects us not to say, oh, my wife is disrespectful. My wife doesn't care for me. God doesn't expect us to say that my wife doesn't support me. So because of that, I'm not going to play a part in her cleansing. God expects us to love our wives regardless. And one key message I want to leave for you, and I need you to pay attention to this. I need to underline this. Loving your wife is unconditional. Let that be something that we'll be thinking about every day of our lives. The same way Christ's death was unconditional because we did not deserve his death, but he loved us still. That is the same understanding you need to bring when it comes to your marriage. As a husband, you need to say to yourself, I am going to love my wife regardless. And loving her regardless is not about her, it's about God. When you love her regardless, you are fulfilling that mandate that God has given to you. And when you look at that same Ephesians chapter 5, the last part, verse 33, it said something very instructive. It was as if God was looking to all the husband who was specific when he says, as a husband, love your wife the same way you love yourself. You can see today, I've been intentional. I didn't talk about the wives. My focus today is on the men because you are the head of the family. Of course, I'm going to talk about the women too, the wives too. But today, I'm dwelling on the husbands. When you don't love your wife, you're saying to yourself that I don't love myself. And I'm not sure there's anyone that will not love himself. That is the same way God expects you to love your wife. Take this home today. I'm going to love my wife, not because of her, not because she merits it, not because she is deserving of it, but I'm going to love my wife because I want to honor God. And let me say this to you. Don't make any justification as to why you will not love your wife. Play your part first and love your wife. So I believe that this video will help a lot of men out there, will help so many husbands out there to be able to start honoring God, to start doing what God has mandated them to do by loving their wives the way they love themselves. So I believe this video has added value to you and your marriage. I believe this video will add so much value to you as a husband. So let me ask you this. Have you subscribed to this channel? If you have not, what are you waiting for again? Can you subscribe, like, and comment? And also, don't forget to put on your notification bell so that you will not miss any of my transformative videos. Till I see you next, Keep helping your spouse to be the best version of themselves, not the other way around. Don't bring out the beast in them. Be a husband that honors God. It pays to honor God. Enjoy your marriage.